The wind arrived before the rain, sharp and restless, sweeping across the small coastal town in Washington as if searching for something it had lost, and Ethan felt at the moment he stepped outside the Lighthouse Museum to lock the side gate, the sky already bruised with dark clouds and the air thick with salt and warning, and though storms were common here, this one carried a different weight, faster, louder, closer, pushing him back inside just as the first heavy drops hit the ground, and that was when he saw Claire standing near the old photograph wall, her coat damp, her hair tied back loosely, her eyes fixed on a black and white image of the shoreline from decades ago, and for a second Ethan forgot how to breathe because he had not seen her in nearly 7 years, not since the night she left town without saying goodbye, not since life had quietly split into before and after, and he wondered if the storm had brought her back on purpose or if fate was simply careless, and before he could decide whether to speak, thunder cracked so close the glass rattled, the lights flickered, and the building groaned like it was waking from a long sleep, and Claire turned, surprised, then slowly recognized him, her expression shifting through shock, memory, and something softer she tried to hide, and she said his name like she was testing if it still belonged to him, and he answered with a nod because words felt dangerous, and outside the wind screamed harder, forcing the front doors to slam shut with a violent echo that traveled through the empty halls, and when Ethan rushed to check them, he realized the power was gone, the locks jammed, and the storm had cut them off from the world with no signal, no lights, and rising water on the road below, and in that moment the truth settled in fast and clear, they were trapped together for the night, alone in a building that smelled of old wood and sea air, while the typhoon raged like it had something to prove, and Ethan felt the pace of the night speed up, his heart matching the storm, because being trapped with anyone was one thing, but being trapped with Claire meant facing everything he had buried under routine and silence, and she sensed it too, standing stiffly as if one wrong move would shatter the fragile calm, and the emergency lights hummed on, painting the room in a pale glow that made her look tired but real, not like the memory he had carried, and she spoke first, saying she had not planned to come here, that she was just passing through town and saw the lights on, and Ethan did not ask why she lied because he knew her tells, the way her fingers twisted when she was afraid of telling the truth, and the storm crashed again, rain pounding the roof so hard it drowned out everything else, forcing them closer, forcing time forward, and as Ethan led her toward the central room where the walls were thickest, memories hit him fast, summer evenings by the pier, shared coffee, unfinished plans, all rushing back with no warning, and he wondered how many nights she had spent thinking of him the way he had thought of her, and Claire sat down slowly, her shoulders tense, eyes scanning the room like she needed an exit even though none existed, and she asked if he was okay, a small question loaded with years of distance, and he said yes because saying more would open doors he was not ready to walk through, and the storm did not slow. Instead it grew louder, fiercer, like it was pressing them together on purpose, and in that forced closeness Ethan noticed details he had forgotten, the faint scar near her eyebrow, the calm strength in her voice when things were uncertain, and the way she still looked at him like she expected him to disappear, and he realized this night was moving fast, faster than his mind could catch up, because the storm was not waiting and neither was the past, and when another loud crash echoed and water began leaking near the windows, the reality set in fully. This was not a short delay, this was hours together, alone, with nothing but noise, memories, and the truth pressing down, and Claire finally whispered that storms used to scare her, and Ethan remembered how he once promised to stay with her during every one, and the weight of that broken promise filled the room, and the night continued to rush forward, wind shaking the lighthouse, rain beating time, two lives paused in the middle of motion, pulled together by weather, chance, and everything they never said, and as Ethan looked at Claire under the dim emergency light, he understood that this was not just a storm trapping them inside a building, it was a moment trapping them inside their own unfinished story, and there would be no slowing it down now. The wind kept roaring outside, shaking the lighthouse walls as if the storm wanted inside too, and Ethan and Claire sat across from each other in the central room, the emergency light casting long shadows that made the space feel smaller and closer, and the silence between them grew heavy until it felt louder than the storm, pushing them to speak before it crushed them, and Claire broke it by saying she never thought she would see him here again, not in this place, not like this, and Ethan answered quickly, faster than he planned, saying he thought she had forgotten the town completely, and her eyes flickered at that, a mix of hurt and defense, and she said forgetting was never the problem, staying was, and the words moved fast now, no pauses, no careful planning, because the storm had taken away their time to prepare, and Ethan admitted he stayed because leaving felt like giving up on something he never fully understood, and Claire laughed softly, not happy, not angry, just tired, saying she left because staying felt like slowly disappearing, and outside the rain slammed harder, water running down the windows like racing thoughts, and Ethan stood to check the leaks, moving fast, needing motion, while Claire watched him with a look that said she had memorized these movements long ago, and when he returned, they were closer without realizing it, their voices lower, more honest, and Claire confessed she had moved back to town weeks ago, not for him, she said quickly, but because her life in Seattle had fallen apart quietly, a marriage that ended without shouting, without drama, just distance and silence, and Ethan listened without interrupting, his chest tight, because he knew that kind of ending too well, and he told her his life stayed simple, predictable, safe, but empty in ways he never admitted, and the storm kept time for them, each thunderclap marking another truth spoken, and Claire said she used to wait for his calls, used to believe he would chase her when she left, and Ethan replied that he thought letting her go was what she wanted, and the misunderstanding hung between them like broken glass, sharp and fragile, and neither blamed the other out loud, because blame felt pointless now, and the night kept moving fast, pushing them forward, as the lighthouse creaked and the rain found new paths inside, forcing Ethan to move chairs and cover equipment, while Claire followed, helping without being asked, like they had always worked together before, and in those quick movements, their hands brushed once, just briefly, enough to send a quiet shock through both of them, and they pulled back, not because it felt wrong, but because it felt too familiar, and Claire admitted she almost turned around before entering the museum, afraid she might see him, and Ethan said he almost called in sick that night, and they both smiled at the strange timing, the storm laughing at them through the walls, and the conversation shifted to memories they avoided for years, late-night talks, shared plans that never happened, moments that felt small then but heavy now, and the pace never slowed, each sentence leading to another, like if they stopped speaking the weight would crash down all at once, and Claire's voice softened when she said she used to imagine what his life looked like without her. And Ethan answered honestly that it looked quieter but not better, and the emergency light flickered, reminding them how fragile the moment was, and the storm outside reached its peak, wind screaming, rain pounding so hard it blurred all sense of time, and Claire admitted she was scared, not of the storm, but of how easy it felt to sit here with him again, and Ethan said that scared him too, because comfort was dangerous when it came from someone who once broke your heart without meaning to, and yet neither moved away, neither stood up to create space, because the storm allowed no escape, and in that forced closeness, they saw each other clearly, not as memories, not as regrets, but as two adults shaped by choices, mistakes, and quiet longing, and the night rushed on, the lighthouse holding, the storm raging, and Ethan realized this part of the night was not about what they lost, but about what still lived beneath everything, and as Claire leaned back, exhaling slowly, eyes closed for just a second, he knew that whatever came next would change them, because storms do not bring people together by accident, and this one was not done with them yet. The storm shifted after midnight, not softer but deeper, like it had settled in for a long fight, and water began slipping through cracks near the ceiling, dripping onto the wooden floor in steady beats that matched the tension in the room, and Ethan moved fast, grabbing old buckets and placing them under the leaks while Claire followed without being asked, her movements quick, focused, like muscle memory from a shared past. And in that motion the space between them closed again, not planned, not forced, just natural, and Claire laughed quietly when a bucket missed a drip, the sound light but filled with nerves, and Ethan smiled before he could stop himself, surprised by how easy it felt, and the storm outside answered with a sharp blast of wind that shook the walls hard enough to remind them this night was not gentle. And when Ethan offered her his jacket because the air had turned cold, she hesitated only a second before taking it, wrapping it around herself like something familiar, and that simple act broke another wall, and Claire spoke faster now, words spilling out like she had held them too long, admitting she used to write messages to him late at night and delete them before sunrise, afraid of reopening something she thought was already gone, and Ethan responded without delay, saying he once drove halfway to Seattle after she left, turned around at a rest stop, and never told anyone because Admitting it would mean admitting how much it hurt, and the truth moved quickly between them, no pauses, no careful filters, because the storm made honesty feel urgent, and Claire confessed she blamed herself for leaving, then blamed him for not stopping her, then blamed the world for being unfair, and Ethan admitted he blamed fear, his own, the kind that hides behind patience and silence, and the rain hit harder, louder, like it was pushing them to keep going, and in that fast rhythm they stopped sitting apart and stood near the window together, watching darkness swallow the ocean beyond, and Claire said she felt like this night was stripping everything down to what mattered, and Ethan agreed, saying storms did that, they removed distractions, leaving only truth and choice, and the lighthouse groaned again, louder this time, followed by a crash from below that cut through the air sharp and sudden, and without thinking Ethan moved toward the stairwell, his body reacting before his mind, telling Claire to stay back, and she watched him disappear into the dark, fear twisting in her chest in a way she did not expect, because she realized how much she still cared, and the seconds stretched fast and heavy until he returned, breathless but safe, explaining a storage door had blown open, nothing serious, but the moment left its mark, because when he came back, Claire reached for his arm without thinking, stopping herself just short of contact, and that almost touch said more than words ever could, and the storm outside screamed again, but inside something had quieted, replaced by a steady warmth, and they sat again, closer now, knees almost touching, and Claire admitted she was afraid of hope, because hope made leaving harder, and Ethan said he was afraid of regret, because regret stayed forever, and the pace of the night stayed fast, conversations moving from past to present to uncertain future without stopping, and they spoke about who they had become, not who they wished they were, and that honesty felt heavier but cleaner, and the emergency light flickered again, shadows dancing, and Claire said she wondered if they would have survived if she had stayed, and Ethan answered honestly that maybe they needed to break first to understand what they lost, and the storm reached another peak, wind slamming so hard the lighthouse shook like it was breathing, and the intensity outside matched the pressure inside their chests, and in that charged moment they did not lean in, did not cross any lines, but the pull was clear, strong, undeniable, and Claire whispered that she never stopped caring, and Ethan replied just as softly that neither did he, and those words hung in the air, simple, powerful, changing everything, and as rain poured and thunder rolled, Ethan realized this part of the night was not about fixing the past, but about seeing each other fully, without excuses, without fear hiding behind time, and Claire felt it too, sitting there with his jacket around her shoulders, the storm reflecting every emotion she had buried, and as the lighthouse held against the wind, they held against the urge to rush, understanding that some connections needed patience even in the fastest storms, and the night continued forward, intense, honest, alive, carrying them toward a morning that would demand choices neither of them could ignore anymore. The storm began to lose its anger just before dawn, not suddenly but in slow steps, the wind lowering its voice and the rain easing into a steady fall, and Ethan noticed it first when the lighthouse stopped shaking. And the silence felt different, lighter, like the night was finally releasing them, and Claire noticed too, lifting her head as pale morning light slipped through the windows, washing the room in soft gray, and for a moment neither spoke, because the quiet after chaos felt almost sacred, and they moved quickly now, cleaning the leaks, emptying buckets, restoring order as if preparing the space to let go of what it had held all night, and when the power fully returned and the main doors unlocked, with a sharp click, the sound felt louder than thunder, because it meant the night was ending, and endings were harder than storms, and they stepped outside together into cool morning air, the town soaked and silent, streets shining with water, trees bent but standing, and the ocean calm again as if nothing had happened, and Claire wrapped Ethan's jacket tighter around herself, hesitating before giving it back, her fingers brushing his sleeve for just a second longer than needed, and the pace of everything sped up again, not from danger, but from choice, because now they were free to walk away, and that freedom felt heavier than being trapped, and they stood near the lighthouse steps, both looking anywhere but at each other until Claire spoke, saying the night felt unreal, like time had bent around them, and Ethan answered quickly that some nights did that, they forced truth forward without asking permission, and Claire said she was scared that once daylight fully arrived, the courage she felt might disappear. And Ethan replied that courage did not belong to darkness or light, it belonged to decision, and the words landed fast, strong, and Claire took a breath, saying she did not know what she wanted yet, only that she did not want to pretend this night meant nothing, and Ethan agreed, saying pretending had cost them enough already, and they spoke about small next steps instead of big promises. Coffee later that week, a walk by the pier, conversation without fear. And the simplicity of it made everything feel possible, and the town slowly came back to life around them. Distant engines, footsteps, voices, reality returning fast, and Claire finally handed back his jacket, smiling softly, saying she might need to borrow it again someday, and Ethan smiled too, saying it was always available, and there was no dramatic goodbye, no rushed embrace, just a shared look filled with understanding, respect, and something carefully hopeful, and Claire walked down the steps toward the street, turning once to look back, and Ethan watched her go with a calm he did not expect. Because for the first time in years, the future did not feel empty or overwhelming, just open, and as the sun rose fully, lighting the lighthouse and the wet town below, Ethan understood that the Typhoon night did not trap them to force a reunion or promise love, it trapped them to remind them who they were when they were honest, and Claire felt it too as she walked away, feeling lighter, steadier, knowing that whatever came next would be chosen, not feared, and the storm was gone, but what it revealed stayed, quiet and strong, waiting to be explored, not rushed, and as morning settled in, both of them carried the same thought forward at the same pace, that sometimes a storm does not break you apart, it clears the way, and this one had done exactly that.